thegearnetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
Coming to you live from Rochester, New York, this is the FTW Podcast with John Cimino and Brandon Gorell. And now, here's John.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Listen In Podcast here on the Gear Radio Network. No Videocast this week. Not feeling too pristine myself here, but
we'll feeling your face.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. Though you can still listen to this on the YouTube playlist with all the others. That is up there for you, and anywhere you find your podcast. Hello, everyone. My name is John Cimino at IamJCMoney on Twitter, joined by my co-host, my eyesore, the one and only, Mr. Brandon Gorell. Brandon, say hello. Yo. And we are here to talk, ladies and gentlemen. Go throw it back a little bit, Brandon. We're going to throw it back. The Football Talk Weekly days, my friend, on this podcast here, because week one has finally come and gone. We are here on this show. We're going to talk about the NFL and the new norm. What Brandon and I both liked and didn't like from week one, from whether it's the sights and sounds, whether it's the gameplay itself, whatever. We'll think about it. We'll talk about it. Our team carousel. Obviously, for those of you that have been following along, you know Brandon is a Green Bay Packers fan. He picks the Packers to go to the Super Bowl every single year. And I am the Jets fan who bitches about everything every single year. We're going to talk about that. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as ESPN loves to call them, and the Saints. Highest rated game of the NFL this weekend. That's good. Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski. Good, not so good. I don't know. We'll talk about that and wrap it up by talking about what we are looking forward to in week two. An actual structure for the podcast today, Brandon. Goddammit. So that aside, before we get into that, the normal BS segment, my man. How in the hell are you?
Living the dream, my man. Just living the dream.
Living the dream?
Day, every night. Every day,
every night.
Better than the worst. Or the last.
Every day you are hustling.
Yep.
Every day you are hustling.
Yep.
I don't know the rest of any of the lyrics to that particular song, but all right. Well, let's just dive right into it here, because I've got kids that are trying to escape sleep on a school night in the new norm. And let me tell you something. This is I will say that with the whole new norm and the whole going to school 2 days a week thing, man, oh man, I did not miss getting up at like an hour and a half before they had to go to school just to get them to the other side of town so they could go to school.
Yeah.
You know, the best part about that, though, is at least I don't have to get myself ready to go to an office on that side of town. So that's cool. No. I could just roll through in my pajamas. But still, getting up that early, kind of sucks.
Oh, tell me about it, dude. The first day of school, I was up at 6:45. That was the first time I'd been up at 6:45 ever. Probably ever for school. Yeah, my kids don't get up. They don't have to get on the school that early. But this year it starts much earlier because Grace is in middle school. So, her bus comes a whole hour earlier than it used to.
Oh, Gianna is not there yet at middle school, but my youngest, her school actually starts at like freaking 7:50, and then my oldest, her school is like it starts an hour and a half after that. So it's such a weird carousel. Whatever, I don't know, I don't care. COVID sucks. But all right, speaking of COVID. It has affected absolutely everything in the sports world, and obviously everything in the world, but everything in the sports world, up to and including America's favorite pastime, football.
Yes.
So the new norm in the NFL, Brandon, little to no crowds in the stands. We saw the crowds in Kansas City at Arrowhead. They had, I think, 12,000 people there. But then you look at Bill Stadium, they had nobody there. So they've done what the MLB, the NBA, and Korean baseball has done, piped in crowd sounds. Because of the pandemic and the risks associated with that, the NFL canceled the preseason, which, in my personal opinion, I don't think was a horrendous thing. But then again, when you see the play that happened in week 1
from some teams,
you could see where the preseason, I think, could benefit from it. So
a team like Tampa that has like a completely new offense, they could have used a preseason game or two. Whereas a team like Green Bay, which really had like no turnover on their offensive side, they looked like a well-oiled machine out there.
Right. Now, we saw a couple of things, and I jotted these down because these stood out to me. You can get into what stands out to you in a minute, but for me, 12 delay of game penalties in week 1, which was, by and large, much, much lower than it was last year. But the difference between last year and this year was last year there was 80,000 screaming fans in every stadium. And you can understand why there may be a delay of game penalty or two because of communications issues. You're not supposed to hear anything.
Right.
I for the life of me, I can't fathom why that was an issue with nobody in the crowd.
It was even more unfathomable, the jumping off sides. I saw it way more than not.
Right. Right.
How do you jump off sides? There's like the quarterback's there. Same thing with a false start. Like, the count.
Right.
There is no crowd. Like, you should be able to hear just fine.
Exactly.
Even on those stadiums where they get like Peyton Manning quiet on offense.
Right.
There's
still some kind of buzz or anything.
Nothing.
There's none of that in there. And
these cats were jumping off sides like crazy. I mean, Rodgers was getting those free plays. Like, I think he was shocked that he was getting those free plays because, like, how are you jumping off sides?
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I don't know. Between that, there was a lot of sloppy tackling. I'm looking in your direction, New York Jets. Missed kicks. Quite a few of those. Vanilla offenses from multiple teams. And then between all of that and the just unbelievable increase in focus on the national anthem and who was kneeling and who was standing, week 1, Brandon, to me, was all over the place. So I turned to you and I asked you, because I just named a few things that stood out to me. What stood out to you from week 1 in the new norm NFL as being your positive and your negative takeaways from week 1?
So the things that stood out to me was the plexiglass in between the announcers and the announce booth. And just for the record, can I just say I get trying to uphold an image, but you know damn well they ain't hanging in between a freaking glass the entire time or keeping their distance. They know each other. They've all been tested. No, they definitely are. Like, the booth is closed off. I was watching, like, I could see up in the, like, some of the, like, they were showing like the two of them or up there or whatever. I've seen some shots. They're sitting in there. The booth it's built in, and I don't understand the reason for it because you can keep 6 foot distance up there. I mean, they're big booths.
Right, exactly. I would have thought it would have been treated more like how the NBA or NFL studios are, where you have them 6 feet apart with just a wider lens to cover the whole scope.
The other thing that stood out to me was the reserve players sitting in the stands. That was weird. Like, see, like, Josh Rosen, like, sitting in the stands with his mask on and his Tampa gear, as the third string quarterback and not suited up. Like,
I did actually. I do remember
seats that. And, like, they're not near each other. And I'm like, why don't you just leave those guys home? Like, they can't suit up. They can't do anything. Like, they're just bored spectators. Like,
right.
They're all on their phones. Like, nobody's paying attention to the fucking game. Like, it was just dumb.
Exactly.
I thought they did all right with the crowd sound. I thought some of it was really stupid. Like, you'd have the home team, and every time there was a penalty against them, they would pipe in some booze, and I didn't like that much. But overall, the ambient, it at least helped, kind of make it feel a little bit like watching a regular football game on TV. But
yeah, and I believe Ian Eagle said at one point that the piped in crowd noise that we hear on TV is actually being fed through their headsets as well.
Yeah.
which explains why they were speaking at a higher pitch during, more exciting plays and things like that, is because they were getting that simulated effect as well to translate that over TV. So that part I was feeling and I was good. But I told Brian this on Trust the Podcast earlier today, that for getting lost in that moment, when a touchdown was scored or a big play was made, and you'd see, you'd hear the crowd and you'd hear the excitement from the announcers and you'd see them celebrate on the field, but then you'd see the quick pan out really quickly and you'd see nobody in the crowd. And I felt that kind of took that moment away just a little bit. That's going to take some getting used to for me.
Yeah. I also thought the sideline of reporting was kind of pointless and useless and just not very good overall. But yeah, it was different, but it was good to have the game back and to be able to watch it, on a full Sunday and just scroll through games and just kind of, have some kind of normalcy. Even if it's a little weird on TV, it's still at least the games are being played. We're not watching replays of last year or anything like that.
Right. No, I was doing that all summer. But you know what else I got? I have to say what made this Sunday just that much sweeter, Brandon.
Yes,
was that I didn't have to spend in between the 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock game getting ready to go bowling.
Oh God, you don't know how great that is.
No, I do know how great it is now. I do know how great it is now.
Yeah.
That much is certain.
It gets better every year.
I miss bowling. I miss the league. I miss some of the people, but I don't miss going at the very last thing of my.
I was going on Saturdays, and
I
don't miss that either.
Yeah, no, I'd rather do a Wednesday.
Every other Saturday, I was like, no.
Indeed. So I'm going to assume that as we progress more and more into the football season, one of two things is going to happen. We're going to get used to it. Number one, it'll slowly start to become the norm until more and more people are allowed and restrictions are lifted as this pandemic hopefully begins to taper off and vaccines are created.
It's not going anywhere, man. You're going to see it all season. All season it's going to be like this. I don't foresee a safe and largely available vaccine until at least middle of next year. I'm thinking too. Nonsense where it's going to be available in November is complete bullshit.
I know it's
going to be available widely in December, January. I think January is best case scenario for at risks.
Mm-hmm.
I think kids, teachers, and seniors are going to be the first ones to get it. And then it'll be readily available to the public. Probably I'd say best guess is March.
Mm-hmm.
And by then the NFL season's already over.
All right. So
you might as well get used to this. If you don't like it, well, you know what?
You could join get the starter pack for not watching the NFL.
Yeah. No, just start downing it just like your vegetables. Just kind of pinch your nose and just you just take it. You know what? Take it for what it's worth. And it's still the game. The players are still playing at a high level. You still got your stars. You still got your exciting plays. Those are all there. You're just missing some drunk jackasses screaming in unison.
Right.
Either yay team or boo referees.
Exactly.
That's all you're really missing. It's
social media. From a social media perspective, it was the same game.
It was. It really was.
But it's funny you mentioned that because my job sent an email to everybody. The real 9 to 5 sent an email to everybody talking about the potential of return to office on a voluntary basis for some people. They were going to start kind of at the higher level executive to kind of go into the offices and see.
Put your finger on your nose and we're like, not it.
Yep. Nope. I was. Immediately. I've already made the proclamation. I want to be the very last person to return to the office.
Yeah.
And I think that they're going to honor that. I don't think they're going to be sticklers about it. But just yesterday, that email came through saying, hey, this is where it looks like towards the end of September, we're going to start bringing some high level executives in so they can kind of take a look at the building. We can work on the configuration and all that stuff. And then by the end of October, we'll start soliciting people on a voluntary basis, like 10% and then 20%, and see how it goes. Said very likely, we wouldn't be to 100% capacity anyways before March or April of next year, but we could start to see people returning to the office in a smaller pace. And then the news came out today about, the vaccination may or may not be out, in for everybody until mid next year. Right. And just today we get an email saying, we realize that a bunch of you had some belongings in your desk that you may want to retrieve. We're going to open the building for a week and allow everybody to scan and come into the building. You must wear a mask. We're only allowing, opening one entrance or whatever, and we're allowing XYZ number of people in. Go to your desk. You have 30 minutes. Get the rest of your belongings, the things that you want to take home, and bring it home with you. Uh-huh. So that to me tells me, number one, I'm safe to go get my Charlie Brown Christmas tree that I set up on my desk every year. Yeah. That's tradition, and I don't fucks with tradition, so I'm going to get my Charlie Brown Christmas tree so I can set it up on my home desk. And number two, they're not confident that we're going to be returning anytime soon.
No, there's just no way. I mean, especially with kids not being in school full time, you can't really force them. If you have the option to work from home, you can't really force your employees to go back to work when their kids are not cared for
right
a large chunk of the week. I mean, a lot of us go in remote and they're 2 days a week, like
right. And that's what mine are.
For kids who didn't opt out, like
so
absolutely. You got kids who got autoimmune stuff. You gotta kind of say, well, we gotta opt out. Like there's
like CJ Mosley did on the Jets defense.
You just can't, force your people to go back. It's not going to work out. So, yeah, I don't foresee people like being asked to like no longer be voluntary until like next summer.
Yeah,
I can't see it, and who knows where we're going to be at? I mean, this thing could mutate, could beat the vaccine. Who knows what happens? Like,
yeah, it's weird. It's very weird. And as a matter of fact, that song I shared with you earlier from the National R&B Society that was playing in that live video. I think that may very well bring us into the podcast and post edit crazy world, because that is exactly what we are.
It is, man.
We are in a
just got to get used to
very, very crazy world.
The people fighting it's stupid.
It's
your life. You got to deal with it.
Indeed. Let's circle back to Football Talk Weekly. I'm listening here.
That's what I'm talking about. You just gotta. The full season's going to be this way, and you're going to watch the first like fanless Super Bowl ever.
That is going to.
I just don't foresee. I mean, they may have it, but they might have it like the Chiefs, like the minimum capacity. Like,
you don't think they'll have it like WWE does with a Thunderdome?
No.
Did you see the Thunderdome? You know what I'm talking about?
Seen the Thunderdome, and it's fucking stupid.
It's ridiculous. It really is. But it'll be interesting to see nonetheless. All right. So moving on, our team carousel, Brandon.
Yes.
Let's highlight the good right now, and the good is coming from your team, Green Bay. Yeah. Green Bay defeats Minnesota 43-34 behind Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. Your boy,
wasn't even really that close.
Right. It's. I was just about to actually say that it's 43-34 on paper. It really was not a close 43-34.
And the worst part is like that 43 points. That's from going like over 3, I think it is, inside the 15 in the first quarter. Mm-hmm. And they still, like, once it started to click, it just Minnesota had no chance.
So your boy, Brandon, the bad man, Aaron Rodgers, remember him? The guy who had Jordan Love drafted in the first round, and
it was going to be
all the controversy. He was going to be salty. Him and Matt LaFleur really secretly hate each other, all that stuff. Yeah, he only went 32-44 for 364 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions.
Yeah, he looked good.
His main man, Davante Adams, had himself a game, 14 receptions, 156 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then Marquez Valdez-Scantling, 4 receptions.
Hang on the balls this year.
96 yards, 1 touchdown. So do me a favor, Brandon, since you predominantly watched this game while I predominantly watched some other piece of shit AAF game, clearly at the same time frame. But give us your thoughts on your team, how you feel against that they, and just particularly how you feel that they performed against the division rival Vikings.
I mean, it was dominant. The defense played well. They were all over Kirk Cousins, and yeah, Kirk Cousins had a Blake Bortles type game where like the stat sheet doesn't look too bad overall. It's like, 259 for 2 touchdowns and a pick. That's not a bad deal. But then when you realize like his 2 touchdowns came in the fourth quarter when they were already getting crushed, and they were playing against a prevent defense, that Kirk Cousins has a real problem facing the Green Bay Packers, it seems like, or just really any division opponent other than the Lions. And, the offense, it took a little bit to get rolling. Like I said, they scored 3 points in the first quarter. Then they got that safety in the second quarter, and then they just kind of took off from there. They just started, piling it away. And, they were trying doubles, they were trying press, and nobody could cover Devontae Adams. I mean, he was just, and it wasn't like he had to make real difficult catches. His routes are just so sharp, and those two are just so in tune. It's going to be real tough stopping them. And, there's others receivers that, we didn't have, where they were like, oh, well, he has no receivers outside of Adams. So, they disrespected Rodgers, and they're wasting his season and wasting his career. Lazard had a touchdown, played well. Scantling showed that if he can hang on to the ball, if he can catch the ball, get rid of the drops, he's going to be that long, deep threat. The guy can get downfield, and he's got breakaway speed where he can blow past the corner and blow past the safety and be open. They showed a really explosive offense, and it came off of, getting the running game going, getting it going, which brought in the play action. And Adams and Rodgers were just play action, play action, play action, play action. So, Minnesota tried different defenses. They just had no answer. Once they got that thing cooking, it was curtains. So very impressive start, especially given the fact that, they didn't play any preseason games together. They played in camp, and they looked like they looked better than they did last year, which is scary because they were 13-3 last year.
What I as you were telling me about this, and I was thinking about this, and we were having a conversation. I want to say it must have been before the Packers game, or maybe it was even afterward when you had came over and we were watching the Saints. We were watching the Saints game, and you had posed a question about the comparison between Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees, and why Drew Brees is looked at in the light that he's looked at in, and Aaron Rodgers is not. So I'm going to expand on that next week, and I think I'm going to bring it to a poll because I'm very, very curious as to what what our listeners, what our friends, and maybe even some football experts from other networks around the area here might weigh in on that, because I'm very curious, because I'm kind of along the lines where you are. I don't know that I understand why Aaron Rodgers got the flack that he did, or gets the flack that he does.
Right.
When he's still consistently behind, arguably, or at least on paper, a lesser team than has been surrounded by Drew Brees the bulk of his career, if not all of his career. And for Aaron Rodgers to go and play in the manner that he played in week 1 against the divisional rival with no preseason, with the whole hoopla.
And on the road.
On the road, right. Well, I mean, but with no crowd, that really doesn't matter.
It kind of does, though.
In the grand scheme, there's no, because I feel that, with no crowd, there's no home field advantage, really.
There is. There's advantages. You're used to playing in that stadium all the time. The lights. The way the turf is. You're more used to it. Plus, you sleep in your own bed. Like, these guys got to travel. They got to, take their road bags, sleep in a hotel.
Okay.
You know, there's an advantage to playing at home still. It's not the same as like, you know, people yelling and screaming, but you know, honestly, like I still think that's an overrated thing. Like I think that's a more a fan and, you know, media thing where they like to say, "Oh, home field advantage because they can be loud." It's like, okay, well, guys playing loud stuff all the time. It's like, you know,
so you're looking at it more from
loud
the
stadiums before and won games. Like,
right, so you're looking at it more from the home field advantage now, more or less, or always has been, but not highlighted as.
Yeah, it's not a neutral site. It's not like the bubble.
Kirk Cousins wakes up at Kirk Cousins' house around the corner.
Right,
he can sleep in and
may throw it to her the night before. Like,
right,
you know,
yeah. Okay.
Let's say, you know, it's not a neutral site. It's just not like. It's not the NBA or the NHL bubble where you're all the same teams are all in the same hotels and they all play on the same ice. Like there's no advantage there. Like you're legit just like wearing a different colored shirt. Like this is a little different. Like you do have to travel on the road. Like if you're, you know, Minnesota, Green Bay are close, but like when you're, you know, say the 49ers are traveling from California this past week and they're going to a new time zone and going to be over in New York.
Yeah, but they're playing the Jets, so it doesn't matter.
They're playing the Jets, but it's still, you know, it's still an advantage. So like, okay, we'll just say like another game on the schedule that has that. So you can't say it's just the Jets. The Rams got to go to Philadelphia. Like they got to leave LA to go to Philadelphia. You know, like
right.
New England's got to go to Seattle from the East Coast to the West Coast. Like, there's advantages there. Like, you're used to the time zone. You sleep normally. Like, there's still that advantage. At least having the home stadium, there's still an advantage to playing in that. And then when you start to get to the elements time, you know, going on a road game to Green Bay is a lot different than going on a road game to Minnesota. Minnesota,
that's true. Indoors versus outdoors. I get you.
Indoors, outdoors. So there's definitely caveats that are still there, other than just the crowd.
All right. So, but overall, you have a very positive vibe and a very good feeling about your team. Yes.
Yeah.
Safe to say?
Absolutely.
Okay. Here's my soapbox. The New York Jets traveled to Orchard Park, New York at Bills Stadium and lost 27-17. It was to say it was an abysmal performance from the Jets is an insult to abysmal performances. When you have a team that produces in the first 10 minutes of the game, Brandon, just 4 yards of offense. In the first 10 minutes of the game in which they had the ball and they had possession 3 times before they broke 4 yards of offense. That right there was the omen. That right there was telling me, Brandon, that the best that the offensive coordinator is not a very good offensive coordinator for the New York Jets. Oh, he also happens to be the head coach of the New York Jets, Adam Gase, the so-called quarterback guru, the so-called offensive genius, the man that owes Peyton Manning his life and his children's life at this point for getting him the jobs that he has. I'm going to quote Mike Greenberg from ESPN when I say that if I were to have a son, or if either of my 2 daughters, Gianna or Emma, were to say to me, I want to play professional. I want to play football. I would love to play football. And they join a Pee Wee League team. I would not hire Adam Gase to coach that Pee Wee League team because he would be grossly unqualified to be the head coach of a kid's Pee Wee League football team. Breaking down the stats for the offense, Sam Darnold was 21 of 35 for 215 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Their best wide receiver, Brandon, had 6 receptions for 115 yards and 1 touchdown. That was Robbie Anderson playing in Carolina.
Yeah.
Jamison Crowder, don't be confused by his 7 receptions, 115 yards, and 1 touchdown, because he got a lucky little dink and dunk pass from Sam Darnold that went 71 yards for a touchdown. And the rest of it was just little 5 yards here, 10 yards there kind of things. No other receiver on the Jets had more than 40 yards receiving. And if you want to talk about if you want to talk about the running game, let's talk about that. Le'Veon Bell was injured in the second quarter, I believe. Hamstring.
What's worse is he was already injured coming in, and like coaches kept putting him out. Like,
yeah, and so now Le'Veon Bell on the IR. He's done for 3 weeks. Frank Gore, the legendary Frank Gore, the badass himself, he comes in. No running back Brandon in that game rushed for more than 25 yards. The best. Let's talk about the defense. The defense, they couldn't make any tackles. That was a great game for Bless Austin. Bless Austin looked like he was coming into his own there. He had quite a few good plays. Quentin Williams got himself a sack. That was great. Josh Allen and his the play calling, I didn't understand for some of that with the Buffalo Bills. Like Josh Allen turned over the ball on a fumble twice. Both
first
times,
drive of the game.
Both times he was running and then he went to dive, but he dove head first and the ball came out. Twice he did that. Last year, week 1 against the Jets, he turned it over 4 times against them. That said, the Jets couldn't capitalize on any of that. They couldn't make any tackles on defense. Like they were just running. Allen was just running through these guys. The Jets' best defensive player was all over the field, playing for the Seattle Seahawks. This has been again. It's not something I didn't expect much from the New York Jets, and I don't expect much from the New York Jets at all. But when you look at the offense and you look at the defense of this team, and you see how the two of them played, now missed tackles and all that aside, Greg Williams does have the defense coming out, amped up, ready to play, ready to give it their all. They may not be good, but they're at least giving an effort, and you can feel that effort. It does not translate to the offense. The offense is just, it's vanilla. It's very dead. It's very slow. It's just kind of like, we're out here doing whatever we got to do. Just getting through the motions kind of thing. They don't like playing for Adam Gase. I think that to me, watching a Jets game from start to finish seems very, very obvious.
Yeah.
They don't like playing for Adam Gase. Nobody likes playing for Adam Gase. There's a number of people that played for Adam Gase in Miami that hated playing for Adam Gase and were very, very open and vocal about it. This offense just, again, dormant. And that falls on the head coach. They don't play for him. So I wish we could go back and retroactively fire Adam Gase after week 3 of last year. But, the injuries and all that stuff, that was his excuse that year. And they did finish off 7-9 and kind of on a high note. But this was probably the worst, by far worst performance from the New York Jets that I have seen in quite some time. And I know I said that a few times last year, but every single time I think it couldn't get any worse under this administration with Adam Gase. He finds a way to just
totally redeem himself.
Exactly. So that's my soapbox, and I don't know how much or how little of that game you watched or paid attention to. But if you have anything to offer with that, please feel free.
When I was struggling to find the feed for Green Bay, because this is my first year not having DirecTV's Sunday Ticket, probably in about at least a decade, if not more, probably almost like 15 years, I'd say. I've had it ever since I lived here, which was 14 years ago. This is the first time I haven't had it. And, I was trying to find the Packers game, but, I have YouTube TV now, so I was able to watch the Bills game locally. And I was watching it earlier, and I watched, the Jets kind of go 3 and out, which is not unexpected. I mean, Buffalo is a good defense. Mm-hmm. So there, your opportunity is going to be few and far between. But then to watch Allen kind of march him down the field and fumble, and I'm like, all right, well, maybe the Jets defense will even this thing out. And then, yeah, they just didn't. And then I stopped watching probably just as the second quarter started in the Green Bay game. That's when I started picking up the Green Bay game and didn't watch much else, but I did watch the highlights or lowlights. And for as much hype and as much love as the Bills and Josh Allen got, he really didn't put away a bad team. I mean, 27-17 is, it's a 2-score game. Like, they didn't get all 17 of those in garbage points. Buffalo got 27 and just kind of sat there.
Buffalo was up 21-3 at the half. Yeah. And then when they came out, it was almost a tale of two different teams because the Jets actually put some kind of offense again. The bulk of the Jets offense came in the second half. The problem with the Bills was that they took their foot off the gas. Again, not to reference Trust the Podcast from earlier, but I told Brian that I felt that the Bills, I felt that they maybe got a little cocky. And I say this not in a salty, my team lost to them way, but in a way where, if you hit the 30 to 40 point threshold, I think you're safe to take your foot off the gas against a team like the New York Jets. But if you take your foot off the gas when it's 21-3, and then all of a sudden it's 21-13, and you were lucky to get the touchdown that essentially put the game away. There was one point in time where I threw out on social media, if the Jets actually come back and win this game, I'll do the Stone Cold beer can celebration and jump into my 50-degree pool. And there was at one small point in time where I thought that was going to happen. So I got my swim trunks ready because I was going to jump in. But then, of course, the Jets went the Jets and reminded me that they were the Jets, and that didn't happen. But my point to Ryan was, the Bills have to be the Bills have to be aggressive until they don't have to be anymore. And I think that they are not at that point where they can dictate when that happens. If they play the game that they played against the New York Jets, against somebody like the Patriots or even the Steelers, not just saying the elite teams like the Ravens and the Chiefs or the Packers or one of those competitive, highly competitive elite teams, Buffalo plays this game, there's a very good chance it's either a close loss or they're just not showing up. It's you can't play this kind of game against the NFL. And I think that, a lot of the designed run plays for Josh Allen that he was going against the Jets, two of which caused the fumbles, quite frankly, were unnecessary and almost cost them the game. So I think if you're the Buffalo Bills, you kind of want to bring yourself back down to that humble pie level. And don't think that this division is just a runaway, because if you saw the Patriots, business as usual with them. They got the job done. They're not going to be a pushover with Cam Newton. And I think the Bills, I almost feel like the Bills kind of, and I'm not saying this again as a fan of the team that lost to Buffalo, because the Bills fans, for the most part, did not go, we're 1-0 off to the Super Bowl. I didn't see very much of that this time. I pretty much saw the same sentiment. We played the Jets, like, okay, great, kind of thing. So,
unless your name is Jermaine, Daniel.
Oh yeah. Well, I gave him a little bit of a shout out on Trust the Podcast as well. I said that I told Ryan last week that he said he wanted to see Josh Allen become a top 10 quarterback. I said, I can tell you right now, I think at this stage, as the game manager that he is with that offense, that team around him, he could work his way to be top 15.
Yeah, he's going to be top 15. He's not top 10. He's not going to win games.
Right. He could be top 15. So Jermaine sends me a message that says, you really think Josh Allen's top 15? And then this game happens and Allen makes the mistakes that he did. And I'm thinking he's probably 16 or 17 right now at this point, because he can't be pulling this shit with the likes of the Chiefs or the Ravens or, anybody that is above a Pee Wee League or AAF level in the NFL. So
you can't do that against the Patriots.
No, not at
They're
all.
going to take those out. They're going to take those, and they're going to get 3 or 7 every time.
I'm going to tell you something too. Don't sleep on those doggone Dolphins as well. They may not be the best team, but they are better than the Jets, and they are not afraid to punch people in the mouth, especially on defense. So Buffalo can't go to Miami and expect them to do the same things that the Jets did, because Miami's liable to punch them right in the face.
Yeah,
that's just the type of team that they are. And Brian Flores has them playing. Yes, they have a very good coach. So
that's the difference between that bad team and the Jets' bad team, is that they have a coach that those players are willing to play for, and he's getting more out of them than he should.
Right.
Whereas Adam Gase is getting less than he should.
Right. Exactly. I don't think the Jets are void of talent.
No, they have talent.
They have talent. They just have the absolute, positively most unqualified coach to handle that talent.
Yes.
And that's really all the problems that the Jets have. I don't know whether or not Adam Gase lives to see another season in New York beyond this, but if he does, then I will I'll be rooting for the Chargers or something. I don't know. But on that note, we're going to take our first commercial break. Right now, real quick, pay some bills. Yes, we do have actual sponsors, so we got to do them. Let the commercials play, please, or just turn the volume all the way down until we come back on. But we'll be right back in a few moments. This is the Listening Podcast on the Gear Radio Network. All right, we're back here. Thanks for listening in to us here on the Listening Podcast. John Cimino here, Brandon Guerrero there. And Yes, there you go. Thank you.
I'm here.
All right, back and talking Bucks and Saints. Brandon, Fox Sports is reporting that the game between the Bucks and the Saints at the Dome drew massive ratings for the network, the best Week 1 rating on the network since 2016. To that I say, how about them Cowboys? But the Saints defeat the Bucks 30. That's because they always put the Cowboys on in America's Game of the Week, and it's never good. Saints defeat the Bucks 34-23. Brandon, Drew Brees was 18 of 30 for 168 yards with 2 TDs. Alvin Kamara added 1 through the ground as well. The defense added 1 off of a pick 6. Tom Brady, 23 of 36, 239 yards, 2 touchdowns, also 2 interceptions, but did add 1 touchdown on the ground as well. Rob Gronkowski held to 2 receptions for 11 yards. Now, this was my takeaway from the whole thing, and then I'm going to give it to you to give your say on this here. But people have been getting on Tom Brady for obviously the past 20 years, but so much more now because now he's no longer with New England. And it's really Bills fans that are, extremely salty still salty about Brady or whatever. So, of course, they were taking joy in Brady getting in, throwing his interceptions and throwing a pick 6. And, in my opinion, he still performed in my view high enough. He accounted for 3 touchdowns for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's obviously not the same Tom Brady as he was 5-10 years ago. But my question to you, because I believe this is true, I believe the world is overreacting simply because he's Tom Brady and has been consistently so good over the past 20 years. Brandon, in your opinion, is everybody overreacting? And if they are, why?
Yes, they are overreacting. And the reason they are is because in America, we have a real joy when we have successful people go down. And I don't know what it is. I think it's just jealousy. I think people are just, generally don't live up to their expectations and their hopes. And it ends up being like, well, if I'm going down, let's see somebody else go down. They feel more like, I don't know, it feels almost like relatable. Like if super successful can go ahead and they can go out there and look human and look bad, then you don't feel so bad about yourself, like not, reaching the goals that you would hope to for your life. And
that's a very damn good point there.
I think that's what people do. And if you look at it, a lot of it was Bills fans, because Bills fans are miserable. They haven't won shit. And they've been chasing Tom Brady and the Patriots for decades. And, you know, when he goes to the other team, I mean, these guys are basically the salty ex-boyfriend who keeps checking his girlfriend's Instagram post to see that she's still single and go, oh, what a loser. Meanwhile, they're sitting there single and not doing much better. But, you know, it makes them feel a little bit better for their own failures. So Tom Brady's going to be fine.
Tell me in February.
You've got a brand new team. I mean, Brady's the leader of the offense now. You've got Fournette there. You've got Gronkowski there. Like, you've got all those new pieces, and yet there was no preseason.
Mm-hmm.
There was no, like, real strong, you know, off-season training camp. It was a lot of it through Zoom. Right. There's only so much you can do there. You got to get the reps in. Especially when you change from being in one place forever and doing things a certain way, and then you got to go somewhere else. So for him to go out there and have 2 touchdowns and two interceptions, he had throw one throwing touchdown, and you know,
one throwing touchdown. I thought it was 2 throwing touchdowns.
No, he had one. I thought maybe he did. He had the rushing touchdown. So I think it was
he had 2 throwing touchdowns, 1 rushing.
Okay, so he had 3 touchdowns in the game. You know, the defense, everyone's like, oh, look, he's just like Jameis Winston. It's like, no, he's
that's
not
what I was going to get at.
Like,
that's what I was going to get at, because Jameis Winston, and to your point, because you made a very
played there the whole time. He played in this offense.
That's exactly where I was going.
Preseason, and yet he does this every year. Like, he puts up gaudy numbers, but like a lot of them are playing catch up because he puts his team in a bad position to start a game.
Right.
That second half, you know, the Bucs got it down to a touchdown score. And then they came up short on their drive, and then they, you know, got it down there, they punted it, and then they stopped the Saints, and you're like, okay, here we go. And then they muff the kick, and then the Saints have it, and it's basically like 2 plays and it's a touchdown. And that was kind of the ball game right there. But, you know, they got it close, and, you know, he didn't put them in this like unmanageable position. You're playing in New Orleans against a team that's been playing together for a long time, that has a lot of continuity, and you're on the road without any reps. So I was watching Dan Orlovsky was, you know, talking about it, and he's like, you know, I felt better about the Bucs offense than I did the Saints offense, because the Saints know each other. The Saints are the Saints, but the Saints didn't look that great. Like, no, they looked okay. They got the job done. But, I mean, you know, it was 24-7, and all of a sudden it was 24-17. They got it to within a touchdown. But like I said, they gave up the touchdown after they couldn't get in there and, you know, get the move. So it was 31-17. And then right after that, they kick it down the field, and it's like, oh, fumble. And it was 3 plays, 0 yards that the Saints went. They kicked the extra field goal, and that was pretty much it. I mean, it was a 17-point game at that point. 14-point you can manage, but they shot themselves in the foot, and, you know, it's going to happen. You know, Brady's second touchdown, I forgot about it because it came in garbage time. They were down 34-17 at that point. But, you know, to start the fourth quarter, it was 24-17. So to say that, you know, this is the same as Jameis Winston, that's nonsense, because Winston would give up multiple turnovers in a row, no less, and the score would be out of reach, and then he'd be sucking up points in garbage time and come back on them. But
by then, the game itself was already over.
23 of 36, 239, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, plus a rushing touchdown for a 42-year-old guy, 43-year-old guy, and a brand new offense with no preseason. I mean, that's not bad.
That's not bad at all. And that was
comparatively was 18 of 30 for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Right. Exactly.
This is what I'm talking about. It's the fucking Breeze factor, and I don't get it.
Right. Right.
It's a pass everywhere he goes.
Right.
No matter what the situation, he gets a pass.
Right.
He played like
and that's the baffling thing, and that's why I want to hold off until next week. That's why I want to hold off on this until next week to expand on this subject further, because I want to see what happens this week with all three quarterbacks. Now I want to actually insert Tom Brady into this conversation as well, because I think it's absolutely ridiculous that people look at a guy who has been to 9 Super Bowls and has won 6 of them. Yeah. Regardless of whether or not it was him and Belichick, he was there. He was the quarterback leading that offense.
He's making the throws.
He couldn't. There were other times in which Bill Belichick had other quarterbacks in, whether Brady was injured or suspended. Yeah. And the two things didn't happen very much. But the injury plagued season where he had Matt Castle as a starter, they didn't. Granted, they missed the playoffs on the fluke. They weren't winning the Super Bowl with Matt Castle.
No,
they were not doing that. They weren't going to win.
Is the 28-3 Super Bowl is a perfect example.
Exactly. Yes.
They're down 28-3, and that guy goes out there and makes those plays in that second half. You could talk about Belichick all you want, but Belichick didn't score all those points. Like Tom Brady was marching them down the field, and then the Super Bowl after when they played Seattle was like you couldn't pass against Seattle. Seattle was making everyone look average, including Aaron Rodgers, including all the best of the NFC, including the Saints with Drew Brees. They beat all those quarterbacks. Tom Brady picked that defense apart because Tom Brady is a good quarterback. You can say Belichick and Brady, it's a great tandem, but to say one made the other is stupid. Because they're both successful people, and they're going to both be successful without each other.
There's another Super Bowl that I'm actually thinking about, which I thought displayed Brady's brilliance very well. And even though statistically it did not show that, it showed that Brady can go back to being a game manager if he needs to be, and he can do that quite well. The game against the Rams.
Yeah,
it wasn't the sexiest game to watch on TV. But when you look at it from that perspective and knowing what Tom Brady is and what people expect Tom Brady to be, and the fact that he adjusted his offense, that he could take down the field like that and score a touchdown whenever he wants, and instead manage the game just well enough to keep a highly rated Rams defense at bay to win that Super Bowl, like that to me was one of the times where I sat there and I looked and I'm like, this guy's freaking good. And then on top of that, to add to that off season, he was making those appearances on that NFL the NFL 100 thing where he was breaking down plays and things like that. And listening to him break down football plays, it was almost, I would equate that to listening to Kobe Bryant in detail on ESPN Plus, when Kobe Bryant would break down basketball plays and work with, I think was Marcus Smart, I think was he working with? Yeah. At one point, helping him with his shot and this, that, and
Jason Tatum.
Jason Tatum, that's it. I'm sorry. And he was working with Jason Tatum on his shot, and Tatum came and said, I didn't even think about this, this situation or that situation or this look or whatever. And when you listen to people like, with Kobe in detail, and when you listen to Brady, like when he was talking about football and analyzing it in that NFL 100 show or whatever the hell it was last year, I mean, you're listening to him and you're like, oh yeah, absolutely. Belichick too. But to dismiss Brady's football IQ, to dismiss him as being one of the smartest men to ever play the game of football, right? And just focus on him being crying Tom Brady or whatever the hell. Like, it's just baffling to me. So if you're a Bucs fan, I would not be concerned at all.
No, they're all concerned anyways because they're Bucs fans and they're used to losing every single fucking season. But it'll turn around real quick. I just want to make another point too. Like, even in the Super Bowls, they lost to the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Brady threw for 505 yards.
Yeah, he was not the reason they lost that Super Bowl.
No, And everyone wants to make this big deal, but like Belichick is a great coach and Brady is a great quarterback. But Belichick was not a great coach before he had Tom Brady.
Right.
Tom Brady was Tom Brady. He was an average, college quarterback, but he had that fire. He had that fuel. Like he matured and became a better quarterback. I mean, guy threw for 500 fucking yards in the Super Bowl and still lost. Like,
right.
You put up 33 points. You can't put that on Tom Brady. Like
this is one. Brady is one of those things.
Didn't help him get 505 yards. This is Tom Brady.
Right.
Brady is a smart guy. He sees the game better. He's going to see what he saw last week. He's going to see the film. He's going to see the missed throws, the missed opportunities, and he's going to get better because he's obsessed with winning.
Right.
Guys who are obsessed with winning always find a way to come out on top. You may get him today. You may even get him the next week, but you're not going to come out on top. He is going to find a way to be on top somehow.
And I will tell you this next week at 1:00. The Buccaneers play the Panthers. I think it's going to be a good rebound game for them. Even though my boy Teddy Bridge runs.
Panthers don't have a lot of talent.
No, they don't. So
they've got McCaffrey, and they've got Teddy B, and then they got Robbie Anderson. But their defense is really bad.
Right. So I expect Brady to pick it up. You know what? I'll end it. I'll end it in terms of the Brady talk like this, because this is a perspective that I took with LeBron James. I once he left Miami and went back to Cleveland.
Yeah.
Talent like that. That's talent that, when they're shoved in your face and everything like that, like that's. I get where the initial heartburn can be, but if they're shoved in your face and then they do poorly, then yes, the hate is justified. I'm sorry, who? Lonzo Ball? Yes, yes. But when they display a consistency of just excellence, regardless, you could say what you want about LeBron and how he handled, the decision and then moving over to the Heatles or whatever. You say what you want, but LeBron lifted up Cleveland when he was first there, and then he took it into overdrive in Miami, and then he came back to Cleveland, lifted them back up, did the thing there, and now he's doing the same in LA with Anthony Davis. Yeah, and it's just talent like that you go to a spot. And regardless of whether the spotlight is on him, he's elevating people around him. Yeah. And he's consistently winning. Like, that type of talent doesn't come around very often, and you should appreciate it when it does. So when LeBron went to Cleveland, that's when I began appreciating him more. And I think it was after the Super Bowl. It might have even been the Super Bowl, the Atlanta Super Bowl. I think that was when I had dropped the Homer hat. Right. And the hate for Tom Brady and looked at him and was like, okay, this guy is the greatest quarterback I've ever seen. Right. And I appreciated him at that point.
I grew up watching Joe Montana. Mm-hmm. I grew up loving Joe Montana. And to watch him play, it's very Montana-like. Except for Brady's more of a killer than Montana was. Montana was like, he loved to play the game. He loved to have fun, kept things loose. Brady is like all business when he comes out there. He's out there to kill you. He's got the Michael Jordan thing. He's got the Kobe Bryant thing where like, yeah, we ain't buddies. We aren't buddies. Like, I'm here to kill you. This is my job. And I am not going to let you kill me. So I'm going to kill you. That's where I elevated him above, like his first couple Super Bowls. He wasn't spectacular. He wasn't bad, but that was more of a driven by defense. Right. I think the one that really sold it for me was the 16-0 season and how pissed he was after losing that Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And then to see him come back and then just come back just as hard. And then you play against a team like, Seattle, and you play an all-world team like Seattle, whose defense is just dominating everybody. And like he just came out there and he picked them apart. Mm-hmm. That game, but like the comeback to the 28-3 always has done it for me too. But I honestly think that Seattle game and the Philly game were probably his best games. And he lost one of them. He was spectacular. I mean, the game against the Falcons, he threw for 466 with 2 touchdowns and a pick.
Right.
Like, it's insane how he raises to a new level. You've got 2 weeks to prepare for the guy.
Mm-hmm.
You prepare for 2 weeks, and you're like, all right, we're going to get this guy. We're going to shut him down. We know where his weaknesses are. We've seen all this film. And you just go, and then he dissects you. And he just goes out you, and he just picks you apart, and you're like, you're just left wondering, like, how the fuck did that just happen? Like, the game against the Legion of Boom, they're just unstoppable. 328 and 4 touchdowns. Right. And it took that stupid play by Russell Wilson on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the kind of play that Tom Brady doesn't make.
Right.
Tom Brady didn't go out there and lose those Super Bowls. Like the Super Bowl, he lost to the Giants both times. First one, he lost on that insane Eli Manning escape sack, chuck it down the field, and David Tyree catches with one hand on his helmet.
Right.
That was the undefeated season.
Right.
But the other time they lost to the Giants in the Super Bowl was the game where he had Wes Welker wide open. He threw it to Wes Welker, and Welker just blew it. He just choked and missed the catch, went right through him. They had to punt, and then the Giants went down the field and got the game-winning touchdown.
Right.
They were sealed it. Welker catches that ball, that's game over.
Right.
Totally blew it. So again, that wasn't Tom Brady. And then the other Super Bowl that they lost was the Eagles one. Like I said, he threw for over 500 yards. Probably his statistically best, most efficient game that he's had. He had no picks. And he threw for 505 yards. So to see people get out here and start piling on after one game during a fucking pandemic on a brand new team is just insanity to me. So,
I gotta tell you, and I'll wrap up the Brady talk on this note for me here, but it is damn fun to be able to root for him now and not feel shitty about it.
I've been for a while, man. I got the Patriots jersey in my closet still. And...
I know. I might kind of like when Favre came to the Jets and I got the Favre Jets jersey.
$1 one.
I might get a Bucks Brady jersey. I got my Cleveland LeBron jersey. I don't think I'll be getting a Lakers one, or a Heat one, although I might after he retires.
The ones where they show stitched when you see him on there. $20 stitched, and they show the guy like flexing the jersey.
yeah, and then they put the wrong team. They put either the wrong team logo or the wrong sponsor logo patch on the on the jersey or whatever.
I don't know, man. My Kyrou one was dope.
I remember ordering a Mark Sanchez Jets jersey, and I had to order 2 of them because the first one came, and it was the Jets forest green. With their old home jersey at the time was Jets forest green, but the shoulders were Miami Dolphins colors. so they had Dolphin sleeves on a Jets jersey. I was so pissed. I was so pissed.
That's like with the Giants. So like I ordered a Will Clark, Mitchell and Ness 89 World Series jersey. And I ordered it from somebody on eBay, and it was like $80 it cost me, which is way less than a Mitchell and Ness jersey was costing. So I was like, I know it's not going to be like totally authentic. They sent it to me. They sent me a triple XL.
Oh my God.
Like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? So I told the dude, I was like, listen, man, you guys sent me a triple XL. I says, I ordered a large. He says, oh, no bad. Or he said, my bad. No worries. I'll get that fixed. And so he ships me out the jersey, and I was like, I was like, where do I send this other one back to? And he goes, oh, don't worry about it. Just keep it. So I kept it, and I gave it to Jay Larkin, actually. I took, because he was a huge Will Clark fan, and he actually just framed it, and he keeps it in his office.
Okay.
Because I was like, well, at least it got some use because Triple XL was even like big on my brother. Like,
Jesus, man. that'd be
but it's still a quality jersey, man. I still have it. It's in great shape, and it's a nice looking jersey. But
that's cool. That's cool. All right, good like, jersey talk story.
It didn't come with Oakland A's sleeves or anything.
Yeah, that's the that right there would be the gift that keeps on giving. That would be one that you should wear. Should wear. But
I gotta say one thing before we go. One last note.
Go ahead.
One disappointment I do have about this not being a Zoom call.
What's that?
Is you opening up a pack of NBA hoops cards.
Oh, I can still open up a pack of NBA hoops cards.
It doesn't, but it's not as good, man. You can't see.
Okay, so then, keep me honest here. Next week when we do the Zoom call, when we do the Zoom conference, we'll open 2 packs again. Because I do have them right here. But yeah, you're right. It probably wouldn't translate very well over the over just the audio. So
you have to rustle paper real good.
Exactly. All right. Well, next week we will definitely do the Zoom cast. Just today wasn't working for me, but we'll do that next week and just remind me, keep me honest. 2 packs. We'll do 2 packs of the NBA.
Don't worry, it's already in the phone.
Perfect. All right. All right. Well, then with that, I guess we'll go ahead. We'll put as Ryan Wolf would say, put a bow on this podcast and take it home. So I want to thank everybody for listening in to the Football Talk Weekly Throwback here on the Listening Podcast. And hey, next week, maybe Brandon, I might next week bring back the old quick hits and go through NFL news and notes to the background music like we did back in the day.
CBS.
What's that? CBS and ESPN did that mega mix that was 16 minutes long. I still got that somewhere, but hey, thanks to all of you for tuning in, listening to us. And hey, by the way, I'm going to post a poll very soon on the Listen In Podcast page. That is facebook.com/listeninpodcast. Because I want to hear your opinion on the love for Drew Brees versus Aaron Rodgers, that whole subject. I really want to dive a little deeper into that next week. And so, yes, your participation, listeners, would be greatly appreciated as well. On Instagram, follow the Listen In Podcast via the TJCMS Podcast Instagram page. It's instagram.com/TJCMS Podcast. I post for both the JC Money Show and Listen In Podcast on there. Hits both pages that, at the appropriate times. It's good stuff. I'm just lazy and I don't feel like running that many more pages, so that's why it's all in one there. But Brandon, hell of a podcast. Let's do it. Let's do it again next week, shall we?
Absolutely.
All right. Good day to you, sir.
Good to you as well.
So long, everybody. Good night now. Brady is going to torch the Panthers.
Yeah, boy!
Hang on, one more thing before you go. Remember, listen to our sponsors following this podcast, as that does help this podcast and this network out in a way that we appreciate very, very much. So if you could just ride it out 30 to 60 more seconds after this podcast is over, listen to those commercials, it would be doing us a very, very big solid. And again, we thank you.
This has been a presentation of the Gear Radio Network. For more, log on to gearnetwork.com.